We're talking to KJ Carson, a host of WEEI radio show, late night in Boston. And so some headlines over the last couple of days coming out of Patriots camp. Of course, Cam Newton released by the Patriots. So KJ, what's going on in Boston?
It's weird. It's just weird. How do you start a guy 3 straight preseason games and then cut the guy? It's stranger than fiction. I mean, Vince McMahon may even put his hands on this. It feels like there was a foot on the rope for the pinfall. It was just extremely weird. Even Vegas hasn't even really moved. They're just at plus 3,000. So I would keep an eye on that line over the next week, because here's an issue. The Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins all are top 10 blitzing teams. For a rookie, there's no backup quarterback. Mac Jones is the only quarterback currently on the Patriots roster. This is stranger than fiction. Oh, and Cam Newton got cut yesterday, right? So there are 2 words in American society right now that it will have dropped food at tables. One begins with an M and ends in S, and the other one begins with the letter V and ends in E. I'm not going to say those words, but I think it kind of ties to what happened to Cam Newton yesterday. If you go back last week, and there was a story that was reported that Cam had left the facilities, had gone out of state for a doctor's appointment, went through the testing protocol, but did it incorrectly, didn't get tested at an NFL facility. I believe that was the rolling ball that ended this week, because I even thought that Mac Jones would start the Giants game for having all the first-team reps and so forth and everything. And when that didn't happen, I just said, okay, well, then Cam Newton is at least the quarterback for the first week. And the whole idea, I thought that Cam was supposed to be the bridge to the future. So if Cam went 2-2 or 4-4, then you give Mac Jones a launching point where, okay, defenses would have to make adjustments because they haven't seen him since preseason. And, okay, if he goes 5 and is out of his next 7, now you're a 9-11 team. Well, okay, that's too many games. But the idea is that he could work his way in there and still have room for failure. There is no net. There is no net at all. And so I do wonder, where so many fans have won the battle, are they ready for the war? So the battle was Mac versus Cam, Cam versus Mac, Mac versus Cam. Now the war is Mac versus Tom Brady's legacy. It's weird. It's weird, guys. It's weird. It's weirder than Jenkins going 16-3. I said it right, didn't I?
You nailed it. I'm gonna pivot this for all. Let me tell you something. This will never happen. Look at Chelsea her eyes rolled back into her head. She's so tired of it right now. She's been trying to jinx me. I'm just been pure luck, but I'm going to take it while I can and just lean into it, KJ. We're talking to KJ Carson, host of Late Night on WEEI in Boston. Give him a follow, great follow on Twitter at KJ Carson. So when you look at Mac Jones, and certainly the potential is there, KJ, how do the Patriots sort of insulate him and make sure that he works through these growing pains in a way that doesn't hurt him long term?
Well, that was Cam Newton. No one expected Cam Newton to be the guy who does so well that there would be a quarterback controversy in 2022. It was almost kind of like, you buy those 50,000-mile tires and you go out and look at them. You're like, okay, maybe a penny will fit in them or not. Okay, once you let that tread wear down, then that's when you get a whole new set of 4 tires. And I think that's what Cam Newton was supposed to be, the last of those tires that had just been spent up versus, waiting for Mac Jones. So now Mac Jones just has to go in there right away. If there's a mistake, he's going to have to stay in there with it. If there's success, there's going to be adjustments. So I find it very un-Belichickian to give his opponents 2 weeks to prepare for a rookie. It's weird.
All right, so our producer Shay is a Patriots fan, and I feel like we've had to talk him off of Mac Jones is the next Tom Brady. Like, all of these people are going crazy for Mac Jones, but let's remember he hasn't played a single snap in the NFL. We've seen quarterbacks come to the league and really struggle. The thing with Tua Like, two of all of the guys in the draft look like an absolute lock. Like, the Dolphins tanked for him, it looked like. But he was not great, coming into the NFL. And it is very tough to be good right out of the gate in the NFL. So what do you expect from Mac Jones? Do you think people's expectations are a little too high?
Oh, way high. Way high. I mean, if you look at Justin Herbert, who won Rookie of the Year last year, lost 6 of his first 7 games. So if you're a Patriots fan, can you honestly sit there and say that if Cam lost 6 of his first 7 games, you could say, hey, we got the Rookie of the Year over there? So if you're talking about a guy who you hear some people trend towards a Matt Stafford and so forth, those guys went through growing pains on bad teams. The Patriots are the second most valuable franchise in football. So there's no room for bad teams and bad play. So where the Patriots, I thought, with Cam Newton and even Cam Newton eventually being replaced, kind of a slight trick of hand, could have been an 11-16. I'm now seeing maybe 7-10, maybe 6-11. And I wonder, like, could you have not used that bridge to get from one, to get yourself 3 or 4 more wins by making a Mac a surprise versus there's going to be no surprise about Mac. He played 17 games in college. The Bills and the Dolphins are top 5 when it comes to turnovers last year. So I'm going to really be looking at the Vegas line to see where it moves next week, because I've been saying that the Patriots at plus 31 was a good bet, plus 310 or plus 3,100, however you want to count your pesos. It's at plus 3,000 now. I could probably see it move the same way that Indy just. If you remember how Indy just suddenly just dropped. That may happen with the Patriots as well, because Vegas tends to be a lot smarter than the fans are about, like, Mac is the next god. So.
We're talking with KJ Carson, host of Late Night on WEEI in Boston. KJ, when you look at this Patriots roster top to bottom, and, of course, you have to insert Mac Jones into that roster as a starting quarterback now, what is best-case scenario for this team if Mac Jones ends up being the quarterback they think he can be, and the additions to the lineup during the offseason end up being the players that the Patriots are hoping can lead this team to a better record than we saw last year?
A successful year this year, I mean, above board, would be 9-8 now. I think this is a 9-18 tops. So I think the fan base has to almost kind of prepare to say, we're not going to be in the sniff for the wild card. I think you're now maybe looking at a split with Miami, where before you might win 2. I think that even opening week was the line probably favored the Patriots, and that's probably going to move to Miami just because of that change. So 9-8 would be a huge success. People can point that Cam was 7-9 the year before, so there would be an improvement. But I just think that, in the back of Belichick's mind, he's thinking, all right, I've got to get at least 35 wins in the next few years to catch Shula. So I think all of that plays into factor. And, with Cam and the situation with the masks and his vaccination status, that's why I don't think you'll see Cam Newton pop up on any other team until that gets addressed. It's like going to work at a new place. Like, if you were already here, you may have some exceptions, but if you're brand new here, come over here in this booth. The nurse is waiting for you. So it's kind of a tough story. It's kind of the story of America as well. I think Mac Jones will be very, very good in this league, but at the same time, he could be on a very thin line as same as Sam Darnold, where he could potentially be overwhelmed. You don't want to see that, but it's a very real possibility.
I think it's not fair to compare Cam Newton to Mac Jones, season to season, because if you look at the Patriots last year, they had the most opt-outs of any team in football. And plus, they added some good tight ends this year in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. But real quick, because we don't have a ton of time, we've got the Patriots. Favorites against the Dolphins in week 1, minus 2.5. Who do you like there?
That's a sucker's bet right there. Come on in, kid. Give me your money. That's a sucker's bet. I think this is one of those situations where, a sucker's bet is like, hey, how many people are going to bet on the Lakers to win the NBA championship last year? 70%. That's the sucker's bet. So that's kind of a sucker's bet because, one, Vegas is kind of saying, the Patriots might squeak it out. And you're saying, they're going to do that with a rookie, and there's no other active quarterbacks on the team right now, and the head coach of the Dolphins is a Belichick disciple and has some pretty solid pieces on defense himself. No. They may win. If the Patriots win, it's by 1 point. It's a sucker's bet. It's a sucker's bet.
A lot of people will probably be taking it. You're absolutely right. He is the host of Late Night on WEEI in Boston. He is KJ Carson. Give him a follow on Twitter, KJ Carson. KJ, thanks for joining us today.
Guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
For more, listen to the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9 Eastern on the BetQL network, the Audacy app, or wherever you get your podcasts.